What is your name?
Tatietta McBride,
Where are you from? Which neighborhood?
Chicago, Illinois, and Bronzeville.
How long have you lived in Chicago?
All my life since I was born, so 22 years.
What role do you play in your community?
In Bronzeville, I don't feel like I necessarily have a direct role, but in the community that I'm in at school, at Roosevelt University, I am the president of Black Student Union on campus. So that's, I guess, a community that I'm pretty active in.
What is your definition of community?
That's a good question. I guess just like, I think the definition of community can kind of refer to multiple groups. So whether that can be like a community at school, like in your neighborhood, just like a group where you are among people that are like-minded or like have a connection.
How have you been impacted by your community?
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like majority of the things that I do with my organization at school kind of comes from like being familiar with the history of my community. And then also just kind of, I think it's just really giving me like, what am I trying to say? It's allowed me to have like more pride about like where I come from and like more pride and love for the city in general. So.
How would your life been different if you lived in a different city or town?
I think that I'm pretty sure I probably would have, maybe if I lived somewhere else, went to schools that were I guess less diverse, even though my high school wasn't pretty diverse, just like the city of Chicago in general is pretty open. And yeah, I just wouldn't come from a great place that is Chicago. Period.
If you could change anything about your community, what would it be and why?
I think one thing that I would change is, I guess, like the fact that people don't really know the history of Bronzeville. And I think that's like having to learn it, like living in this community and like going to a high school in Bronzeville, it really kind of helped me to like have so much love for it. But just like the way that people view the neighborhood. So whether that's people of other races that don't necessarily know the history, or even Black people that don't know the history of Bronzeville, and also people just kind of associating it with like, oh, it's Chicago and it's the South Side, so it's like violent and like aggressive. So,
how do you think your community is viewed by others, and why?
I think that my Bronzeville, along with many just other like predominantly Black communities, are just kind of seen as like poor, disadvantaged, and also just like very violent, and kind of undeserving of certain things, certain necessities.
Why do you think this?
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I don't think I can really point to one direct thing and be like, okay, this is what it is. But I think it's kind of just like ingrained in our society that we just assume that, okay, even Black people of color, we just assume predominantly like people of color neighborhoods deal with like poverty, and which we do, but it's like it's more to that. So I guess just like lack of knowledge, basically.
Okay. If you think this view is wrong or unfair, is there a way to change how your community is viewed by others, and how?
I think really just starting to do the research. Like, that doesn't even have to be like literally writing papers and like looking up stuff online, but like, just kind of going throughout the neighborhood to really see like what's going on. And Brownsville has so many like landmarks and, like different like attraction sites. And you really can just like learn so much about the city in general just being in Brownsville. So I think that's just the issue overall, just people being willing to understand differences and being accepting and not wanting to be like, I guess, finding people that are like inferior.
All cities have to deal with issues like violence. How does the issue of violence in Chicago compare to other major cities?
I think like the question says like every city has violence. Like there's not going to be a place where there won't be violence, but for some reason Chicago is just that place where it's like easier to I guess it's just like people believe that it's like a hot spot for violence, in which it can be, but it's like people see that and that's all they think. It's like Chicago downtown and Inglewood violence. Like it's nothing else.
What are the top three issues, concerns, etc., that you would like to address and start a dialogue with the community? Your community could be your peers, the neighborhood, Chicago, etc.
Gentrification for sure. Gentrification that doesn't benefit Black people, I guess, more directly. Lack of resources and I guess violence, yeah.
If you were in charge of the media, what would you show? What would you do to change the perception of how people view you in your community?
Me and or me and?
Me and like,
okay, along with.
Yes.
I guess, well, as far as the community, I guess just like paying attention to things that aren't just negative. Like there are so many like organizations, even within this community, just organizations and businesses that like aim to like uplift the community or like add to the community and be benefiting to Black people in the community. So kind of really looking at that, like, let's point out these local Black-owned businesses instead of course, we want to know, like, when there's murders and, like, violence and things happening. But that shouldn't be the only time that our communities are highlighted. So.
Mm-hmm. How do you see Chicago in the future?
Well, I guess in a more optimistic light, because I know that I want to like be a person to like create change in the community. I would say that I see Chicago like just thriving and seeing like Black Chicagoans just, I don't want to say taking over, but like really understanding the power that they have. And I see people just like ultimately doing better and wanting better for themselves. Yeah, we're gonna stick with the optimism.
Okay. It is important for us to keep an ongoing dialogue of the most important issues facing our community. Are there any other questions that I did not ask you that you feel I should ask others in your community? We'd like to use your questions in our next interviews.
I guess maybe asking the interviewees to kind of highlight some positive things that are going on in the neighborhoods. So whether that's like a shout out to like a Black-owned business or like an organization that's for kids or something like that, just to kind of still be asking, like still making people think, but then also like making us be able to pinpoint things that are positive as well.
Okay. Any additional notes, comments about this process, i.e. your experience? What can we do to improve this process for future interviewees? What was successful? What needs work?
I think overall the interview was really good because it definitely kind of forces you to think about what's going on. Not just like what's going on around us, but also like what we are doing to contribute to what's going on, or if we aren't contributing. And then what was the other question?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.